Hello and welcome. My name is Joe Johnson. I serve as the Executive Director of the National Center for Urban School Transformation, INCUST. Since 2005, INCUST has been identifying amazing elementary, middle, and high schools that generate great learning results for all demographic groups of students. And it probably isn't a surprise that in all of these amazing schools, we find amazing teaching practices that increase student learning and success. In fact, we find 8 teaching practices over and over again across elementary, middle, and high schools that achieve remarkable successes. We believe the teaching practices we've witnessed in INCUS award-winning schools can be applied in ways that make online learning more powerful and more effective for diverse populations of students. So we're pleased to bring you this segment of our Equity, Excellence, and e-learning webinar series, highlighting the practices we find in many of the nation's most amazing schools. These practices are also featured in the book, Teaching Practices from America's Best Urban Schools, second edition. Through this series, we're offering you the opportunity to hear from educators who exemplify these teaching practices, not only in the face-to-face instruction they provide to students, but also in the virtual learning experiences they are providing throughout the current pandemic. In today's session, we will focus on the practice of leading students to love learning. In many ways, this practice is the summary of all the excellent teaching practices we have identified. And in some ways, this practice is the exclamation point that yells, yes, this is why students who used to think they couldn't now are certain they can. Yes, this is why students who seem to have been turned off by school maybe a year or two ago can't seem to get enough of school, even now in the midst of virtual learning. Yes, this is why students who might have been considered behavior problems or academic challenges in the past are now thinking of themselves as young scholars with tremendous potential to learn, grow, and succeed. You know, some of our students come to us with a cord that doesn't quite seem long enough to reach the electrical outlets of our information society. And as educators, we might think, oh, if I could just pull his cord hard enough to reach this outlet we call literacy, or this one we call numeracy, or this one we call science, I know I could help him succeed. So we sometimes frustrate ourselves, and sometimes we frustrate the heck out of our students by yanking on their cords to no avail. In contrast, in the highest performing schools, we see educators who have designed these little things that you might call extension cords that make it easy for students to connect to the world of information. We find educators who have designed strategies that make it easy for students to get excited about academics, to feel optimistic about their ability to succeed, to feel like finally they get it, like they love learning. We are so pleased to bring to you today such a group of educators, a group of talented teachers and administrators who have demonstrated over and over again that they know how to help their students get to a place where they love learning. And so in just a moment, I'm going to have my colleague introduce this team of fantastic educators coming to you today from Glendale, California, the Glendale Unified School District. But before I allow her to introduce them, I want to introduce her. And so it is my delight to introduce you to one of our InCust executive coaches, Kara Riggs, a fantastic educator who is going to moderate this session today. Kara, please take it away.
Thank you, Joe, for that energetic opening. That's why you're our leader. So I too would like to welcome our audience for joining us for this topic. And we're excited to have this webinar available to anyone interested in learning how our award-winning schools are tackling this practice of getting kids to love learning. We also want to remind you that along with the webinar that will be on the website is our companion blog that is also posted on the website. So be sure you read that. I'd like to introduce our panelists for you today. First, the principal of Horace Mann Elementary School, and as Joe mentioned, in Glendale, USD, Principal Rosa Alonzo. Thank you, Rosa, for joining us. Also, her fabulous fourth grade team of teachers, Monica Garibian, Anna Babakayan, did I say that right, Anna? Okay, and Patil Ayavasian. I'd like to take a minute to describe to our audience, since these are 3-time winners of our awards, I'd like to tell our audience the process that we use for identifying America's best urban schools. The qualifications and the criterion are tough. So for Horace Mann to get it 3 times is pretty awesome. But after a school qualifies for our award and we have put our pile of applications together, we gather teams of our NCUST colleagues and we visit the school to go validate the application. Is everything on the application truly happening at that school is our goal. So we take the time to spend a couple days, we observe teaching and learning throughout every classroom with multiple sets of eyes. We do focus groups with all of your stakeholders, parents, teachers, students, district leaders, administrators. And then we get back and we gather all the data to comparatively determine what level of award each finalist school earns. So what about Horace Mann? Well, they are 2-time gold level winners. And also in 2010, before we leveled those awards, they were recipients of one of them. So since I knew that you ladies were going to be our panelists today for this particular webinar, I took the time to pull out my notes that our team took during our visits to Horace Mann. I thought that would be fun for you to hear what we gathered and all of the amazing things that everyone noticed at your school. So as I read them, I want you to think about how many of the the comments really validate not just the outcome of your gold level award, but also how evident it is that Horace Mann teachers are both intentional and very successful at getting kids to learn, to love learning. So when interviewing students, one of the questions that we asked them was what they loved most about their school. And these students all shared that they loved how hard their teachers worked and how much they learned from each one of them. We noticed that during observations in classrooms, there was a great deal of student voice that was honored, encouraged, and obviously specifically planned for. The passion of teachers for their kids came through during the execution of their lessons and also during the activity that happened in their PLC meetings, suggesting that there is a high quality relationship between teachers and each other and teachers and their students and families. One team member specifically noted, quote, the teachers in their PLCs were able to review student data and in doing so also engaged in rich, meaningful discussion about each individual student, their strengths, their areas of growth, their home life, what they know about them. And this level of knowledge only comes from a high quality relationship between teachers and their students. Students during their interview shared that they knew their teachers loved and cared for them. And they shared that they knew this because teachers spent a lot of their own time and money helping them on a daily basis. The amount of student dialogue that was happening during our classroom visits to your school spoke to a culture where everyone is valued and everyone has a voice. How about this one? Quote, it is so obvious that teachers love teaching and students love learning at this school. Students actually mentioned their teachers using the gradual release model, as well as the scholarly talk time that's taking place in all classrooms at Horace Mann. Clearly understanding the approaches to their learning, which teachers are dedicated to ensuring. Students were able to articulate what they're learning, what learning goals they have, and all felt that school was important and that the staff supported them in their learning goals. The students shared that they are there to learn, to grow, and to do their very best. We witnessed that teachers talk to their students about more than the standards. They talk to them about why these standards matter, how they connect to their real lives, and how important it is that students grasp the concepts and procedures learned in class. Again, all of these observations by our team validate that this particular practice is part of what contributes to the success of Horace Mann students. Of course, these observations occurred pre-pandemic and before distance learning. So today, we'd like to tap your brains about how you've managed to ensure students continue to love their school and love learning in your classrooms, all in a virtual world. So let's move on to some questions for you individually. First, Rosa, I'm going to pick on you as the principal. Let me congratulate you for your leadership and the outstanding outcomes that you and your school have achieved, and for your third Best Urban School Award.
Thank you, thank you.
I have to ask you, what was the reaction to your school community, your staff, students, families, and your district on the announcement during the virtual ceremony that Horace Mann was getting a gold level award?
It was just absolutely wonderful. This presentation, first time, and obviously because of the situation, we were able to everyone participate and were able to really hear the announcement of the award. So we were very excited, and I couldn't be prouder of our team's effort to really work on providing our students with the best teaching possible. And to be recognized by National Center of Urban Schools Transformation really says a lot. An organization that's dedicated to researching practices that make a difference in schools, that serves student populations such as ours. So it was very rewarding to see our efforts being recognized with this wonderful award. And obviously 3 times says that, you know, we really are sustaining the work and really strengthening what we're doing for students. So I'm proud of our staff, our team, and very proud to receive this award.
Well, I remember how your pride radiated. Oh,
You have to do that. I'm sorry, my lights went off. I guess.
Oh, okay.
So, okay, sorry.
It's all right. So I remember how you radiated with pride in knowing that you qualified for the process. But I would have loved to have been sitting in the room when you guys all heard that you got a gold. So we know from our research over the years in studying high-performing urban schools, Rosa, that a positive transformational culture is truly the foundation of all other successes that are happening. Our focus groups at your school clearly indicated unanimously that being a student, a staff member, a parent at Horace Mann is truly something special. Where it's the greatest place to be a student, to learn, and the most rewarding of places to work as a teacher, and then parents who do anything to be sure their kids get to stay there. I'm wondering, how have you nurtured this strong foundation as the principal?
Well, I think working as a team with a very clear goal and focus has really helped us perfect what we want to see for our students, our school, our entire community. We all know here at Horace Mann that every student deserves to succeed. And we really start with the strong academic foundation and work to making sure that we work towards that, and we are making sure that what we do is for that purpose. Students come to us with, you know, various challenges: language, economic, home situations, but we know the teachers have the power to make it happen for our students, to have our students succeed. We know that what we do from 8 to 3 is crucial, and we look at what does the data tell us. We're constantly reflecting on our data. What is it that is strong with what we're doing with our practices, and what are some of the challenges? We're not afraid to look at that and to really make sure that that we do something about it when we need to do something about it. Our biggest focus has been looking at engagement, and how do we make sure that all students are engaged, and teaching what is it that we have to teach? What are the expectations for that grade level? What are the standards? And we make sure that our teachers are learning together, working together as a team, and our students are also working towards the same goal, is being the best student they could be.
Well, it'd be wonderful if you could bottle that, because everything we see in positive transformational cultures is so evident at Horace Mann. You know, as I mentioned earlier, our topic today, specifically the practice of leading students to love learning, was so evident to our team in all of the classrooms that we observed throughout your campus. Can you speak to us about this practice and how you made it so apparent to us that getting kids to love learning is a priority for you and your staff, and it is coherent across the whole campus? How did that happen?
It's one day at a time. It's working and being consistent and being focused on what we want to accomplish. But I would say one of the key things I see in a classroom when I walk is there's this buzz, this energy that it's difficult to describe. But a lot of it is because our teachers they work together, they care for our students, and they're really determined to make sure all of our students are succeeding. There's a lot of communication between staff and students, staff and parents, support staff and teachers, support staff and parents. We all work together as a team to make sure that everyone is working towards the same goal. Students know that they're team players and they're trying to win the game of learning, and they're working towards that, and they're doing their very best to make sure that they do what they need to do, what it takes to be a student. And obviously that just doesn't happen. It's something that we work towards, and we work to really teach our students to be the best students they can be. Our teachers, they work to be the very best they can be. And I think that has a lot to do, that buzz and that feeling and that energy, because everybody is in sync with each other, with wanting to be the very best for the students that we serve. We, work together as a team. Teachers collaborate, and there's scheduled, meetings that they attend, and the meetings are purposeful. They're working with each other to learn from common assessments that they develop and they give to the students. They work together to plan to address some of the needs that they're seeing as a team. Um, Teachers are they're not embarrassed of the results. They work together because they know that they're there for each other and for the students that we serve. So again, it's something that it's working towards the same goal as a team, everyone working together, and not giving up on the students, and also students not giving up on themselves, because they know that we care and they know that we want the best for them, and they also, along with their parents, obviously want the best for themselves and being successful.
And even though someone gives you an award that says you're the best, you guys still want to get better. That's what's amazing. And that's what is part of that positive transformational culture we talk about. So, one of the jobs of a principal is doing walkthroughs and being in classrooms. Tell us at Horace Mann in regards to how your teachers are still making this practice happen. What are you seeing virtually in classrooms in regards to that buzz and energy that you described happens in classrooms? Are you still seeing that?
Absolutely. And, I know many of us are feeling this distance learning is it going to be, different? What's going to happen? All the things. And I know I myself was worried about that. What's going to change? Are we able to keep the momentum that we've had? And, as I said, the buzz and the energy and the excitement for learning. And, what I notice is that we've got such strong fundamental practices within our school that we are able to still see those key instructional practices continue. They're done differently, and that's just the way it is right now. But I still walk in, or not walk in, but I pop in to classrooms, and I still see direct instruction. There's clear visuals for the students. The teachers are still engaging the students in their learning, making sure that they're checking for understanding. Students are engaged. Teachers have um, developed, many ways to engage students this new way, but to really use that engagement to um, check to see how students are doing, gauge, and make those adjustments. So the standards are still a focus. They're still focusing on what is it that is important for their learning. And now even more so because the time is limited. So teachers have really identified, and that's part of their collaboration, is they work on what are those essential skills that students need to learn. And they focus on those during that instructional time. So instruction, time with students is key, and our teachers are still doing those same practices. Our strategies, our best practices are still they're still in full force. So the way we do it is different, but what we do it still remains the same.
That's great. Rosa, thank you. I might be done talking to you, but we're going to start talking about you here in just a minute. Monica, can I tap into you?
Sure.
Welcome again, Monica, and congratulations on your school's award.
Thank you.
In schools performing at levels like Horace Mann and with a culture as positive and dedicated to students being their best, leadership matters. Here we go, Rosa, we're going to talk about you. Can you speak to this reality specifically when it comes to the leadership in your school and the support that you get at Horace Mann as a teacher?
Sure. You're right. Leadership is very important at our school. Of course, we have our principals' leadership, we have the teachers, and we also encourage our students to be leaders. We're so blessed to have the same principal for the past 15 years. She's very compassionate and she offers her support in any way she can. But she knows academic performance is a team effort. So she's constantly encouraging collaboration. She asks teachers for their input. So we feel heard and trusted. Therefore, we want to do more. We get excited to teach. It's just like a team effort. And teachers at Horace Mann, we take leadership in many different ways. We have different roles. We have, formal roles as leaders. For example, our instructional leadership team, they have many responsibilities. They will meet monthly with our principal to talk about and discuss ways to improve teaching. Instructional leadership team is also responsible for mapping out and planning our focus standards. However, all teachers are encouraged to take charge at Horace Mann. We try to help each other, share resources with each other. We are constantly collaborating. And I think that's just, it just comes naturally. We help each other by sharing anything. I might find a great book or an article or a great website that's related to what we're teaching. And it's just exciting to share. And we'll communicate with each other outside of school hours. I might text or call in the evening and say, hey, I found this great assessment tool. I can't wait to show you guys tomorrow. So it's exciting because you found something great and your colleagues are going to be excited as well. So it's just natural. And I think, that reflects back to the students, and then the students get excited and they want to take charge. So we do encourage students to be leaders as well. We want them to not just be leaders in learning, but also in the school and leaders in their lives. Mm-hmm. So we also have many after school programs, not currently, but in school, we have cheerleading, student council, we have after school sports, music, and many more. So the kids get excited.
So leadership is a word and a concept bigger than that lady's office in the main office, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's pushed all the way through. Can you, Monica, take just a minute to speak to the challenges that you and your colleagues are facing, just like across the country with virtual learning, but specifically about making sure that you stay true to making your students love learning?
Yes, of course, there are challenges because here at Horace Mann, we know many of our students are challenged by the language demands of learning a new language in addition to learning grade level skills. And we know there is a lack of resources at home. However, we try to take full responsibility and full charge when we have them. So initially with remote learning, that was one of our challenges, not having enough time with our students. So, but we took that and we said, okay, this is the situation we're in. What can we do? So we still focus on engagement. We try to find ways to engage all our students, whether it's using a whiteboard or the chat box. We're, trying to make learning fun for them. And we still teach to the standards. We're still constantly teaching and doing our very best. So although there is a challenge, we don't have them in person, but we just kind of, took it and we realized, what can we do? And yeah.
The $1 million question across the country, though, is, are your cameras on?
Of course, 100% of the time.
Your student cameras are on 100% of the time.
Yes.
Wow. Do you think you could have the level of teaching for love of learning without those cameras on?
No, I don't. I think it's so important to be able to see our students, to be able to see, their body language. Are they understanding? Are they listening? Having cameras on, in my opinion, is a game changer. I think that's so important.
We could probably do a whole webinar on just that piece of it. But I want to ask you one more question, because what we observed were these really high functioning PLCs. The energy of your team in a PLC is so fun to watch. What does your team do specifically and intentionally to plan with this practice in mind?
Sure. So as I mentioned earlier, we collaborate naturally all the time, informally. However, we do have structured meetings that are planned. And this is our intentional planning time, where we sit together as a grade level or as a school. This is where we're planning focus standards. We, as a team, develop assessments, and we analyze student work samples. I think that is the most important piece during our PLC meetings, looking at student work and asking ourselves, well, what can we do? How can we make this better? If a student doesn't know how to do this or doesn't understand this concept, what can we do to reteach? And what do we do if the student already knows this skill? What do we do to differentiate? So we do have these structured meetings. We collaborate twice a month for an hour and a half. And what's also special during this time is the first half hour is dedicated to training our staff, just school-related best practices. So it helps our teaching better, and it's in a way for our support staff to support and make our instructional focus, which is reading comprehension, better.
Very good. Thank you so much, Monica. How about you, Anna? Are you ready?
Now I am, yes.
Okay.
Hi.
Hey, before we start, what is that in your window that you're sporting over there?
My sticker?
Yeah, what does it say?
It's our NCUST winning sticker. It says, I work at one of America's best schools, and I'm super proud of that. So I want to put it on display. And I want to make sure my students see it, because they belong to a amazing school as well.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. I want to focus with you, Anna, on the ways in which you've kept students engaged in the virtual classroom. What does a highly engaged virtual classroom look like? And how has it been working to use those engagement strategies to keep your kids loving learning?
Yeah, well, I always take into account that no two students in my class learn the same way. So I want to always change these engagement, styles, and really depends on what kind of students I have in my class. Do I have these visual learners? Do I have these learners that are more kinesthetic and they like to move, to be involved in the lesson? Today, my students heard a rap song about types of rocks. I mean, what am I going to do to get their attention? I always, start with the tried and true. We use whiteboards to share. I get to see everyone in my gallery screen. I can see who's participating, who's not, give specific direct feedback, and then move on to my next question. Think, pair, share is also great, and it works over Zoom. I can pose a question. I can have students think about it, then put them in a breakout room, and then, give them a Google form so I can hold them accountable. A lot of great engagement strategies that I use every day can be transferred into remote learning. But one thing I think that has helped a lot this year has been leadership roles. Giving my students the ability to allow them to be excited about coming to school. They have to be on time because their teacher needs them. And if they're not here, how can we function? They're my attendance monitor and my flag salute leader and my mute button monitor checker. And, they're a part of our community, and, they're happy to be here, and they're hearing for, the section of time that they have to, do their assignment or do their role. So just getting them excited about learning. And none of this works if the teacher is not excited. I think that's the most important thing. When you're enthusiastic about the topics you're teaching, you've planned them with your grade level, you're excited about sharing it with your students. Your students feel that energy and are right there with you.
Well, you're contagious, I'm sure. I feel your energy so clearly. Tell us, I want you to reflect a little bit. In your experience, what evidence as a teacher do you take to validate yourself that your students are indeed loving learning?
I take that seriously, definitely. A lot of facial expressions, body language, and we spoke about the camera being on, and how can I do that when it's off? So yes, that camera is on, and I'm going to comment on that nice haircut because I want that camera to stay on, or that beautiful pajama shirt they're wearing to class. So I'm asking for feedback from students. And when they ask for feedback from me, I wrote something down. Can you please read it? Can you read it now? Can you tell me how I can make it better? All of these are telling me that they want to be there. Mm-hmm. They're sharing books with the rest of the class. Initially started as a leader role, and now they're taking it upon themselves to share, volunteering to read their assignment or explain to a student that didn't understand the steps on solving that math problem. These are some ways that I know they're there, and it's validating to see that they do love learning.
And counter to that, I'm assuming you're not perfect, and you might flop sometimes, but what happens when they do not give you evidence that they're loving learning? What happens with you as the teacher?
Every teacher has a bad lesson, and every teacher has a bad day. The most important is, are you reflecting on that? Are you asking yourself, how can I make that better? Do you have a team you can go to and, ask them, I did this, how did you do it? Mm-hmm. But definitely, when they're not motivated, they have lower scores, their work is incomplete, they have lack of motivation, and we don't want that. We want them to be excited, and if we don't reflect, if we don't figure out how to change that, then our lessons, won't be the same.
That's great. Anna, thank you. I appreciate you sharing. Let's go to Patil. How are you, Patil?
Good, thank you.
Good to have you. So in what ways have you intentionally connected with your students to build relationships with them during the time in which you've not had them live in your class, but you've had them virtually?
So starting the year off with virtual learning, we knew that it was going to be a challenge to build these relationships that we would normally have done and in the real world. And so we knew we had to be very intentional with our lessons and our strategies and our time in order to still be able to build those strong, meaningful relationships in the virtual world. So when we started off the year, we created beautiful slides for them to fill out about themselves, more of the get to know me type of activities, where they could tell us about their interests and their cultures and their family life and their hobbies. And that way, when we're planning our lessons, we can incorporate these aspects of their life into our lessons. And that's going to build a connection with them. And they're going to get excited and they're going to know that we care about who their favorite singer is or what their favorite sport is or which country they came from. So I think that when a math question comes up and the name of their favorite athlete is in there or their name is on a language arts assignment, they get so motivated and excited to, really make sure they get that answer correctly. So that's one way that we've connected with our students. And to continue, when we were in the real world, we had moments of time going down the stairs to lunch, bringing them up back from PE, where we can give them a high five or ask them how their day is going or what chapter are you in that book. But we lose that in that virtual learning time. So we have to figure out how else can we check in with our students. So maybe signing on a few minutes early or staying after school to chit chat and just hear what they have to tell us about their day or their favorite new book. So all those moments really do matter. And of course, time is a challenge, but this is what's going to count. This is what's going to make us go to that next level of building that relationship with them. Some other examples, when we have material pickup, our grade level especially makes it a very big point to be there for the kids, for them to see us and, give us that virtual high five or that smile that we could see every day through the computer screen. It makes a difference. It sparks joy in them. And for us too, to finally see them in person, we don't get the chance to, and that 5 minutes of connection, makes a difference. We also try to give feedback to them on Google Classroom and leave comments on the stream and have time for them to communicate with each other, put them in a breakout room and build those meaningful relationships. Also, I want to add that having that connection with the family, letting the students know that we are in contact with their parents. We care about how their learning is going. We're a triangle. I always say it depends on the teacher, the student, and the families. And all together, if they see that we're all connected, we all have one goal in mind, which is the student's learning. And lastly, restorative circles and SEL learning is a big part of our school. And we plan intentional lessons for us to get in touch with our students and get them to think about their feelings and express that with the class and, gain that relationship and that friendship with their peers where, they're not the only ones feeling that way. And we can build a connection and create a positive class climate. So these are just some of the ways we're trying to connect with our kids every day through a computer screen.
That's terrific. And I bet your kids just cannot wait to get back in there as much as you want them there. Definitely. So can you speak to us again? We've talked a little bit about the strength of your PLC and this grade level team that works so well together. How do you create learning objectives that are relevant to your students? And what does that process look like between you fourth grade teachers?
So yes, the PLC meetings and our grade level development meetings, those are very important for us to plan. That time is crucial for us. And as we've mentioned before, we really focus on the standards, but more than that, we have to think about how do we make these standards come to life for the kids? How is it going to be relevant in their lives for them to actually internalize the information and not just look at it as, the next subject we have to learn because we just have to do that. So as a grade level, every time we're we're planning, we're always thinking, okay, what are we going to do to bring this to life? How can we relate it to their life? How can we make this connect to something that they're going to deal with in the future, or when they're at the grocery store, or when they're shopping, or when they're in college? So all of these aspects of life, of real life, we try to incorporate within our lessons in order to make it relevant. We also try to connect different subjects together. So if we're learning about science, like earthquakes and rocks, we try to incorporate math with that. So they see how, we might measure the rocks, or we might measure the amount of magma. So that shows connection between the integration between the subjects, and it becomes more real, where they're not separate subjects that are not related. It builds that type of relevancy as well, to see that bigger picture and see how in life all these topics have to do with each other. And also, when we plan our lessons, we like to create engaging hands-on activities where they're going to have fun and learn at the same time. So for example, we created a math project where they have to go to the grocery store and compare prices in order to bake chocolate chip cookies. Which store has the best prices? Which has the biggest discount? And then when you bring the ingredients home and you want to bake the cookies, okay, now we're going to use fractions. We need to measure. So all of these come together, and not only are they learning, but they're also engaged, and they're having fun, and they're spending time with their families, and all of that creates that relevancy that's necessary for them to internalize the information.
No questions by Horace Mann students about, why do I need to know this, right?
Definitely. I mean, they all know that somehow it's going to come up later in their life, whether they're presenting to their boss and they need to persuade the boss to pick their design. Somehow it's going to come up, and they're going to think back to fourth grade. My teacher told me one day this is going to come into use, and that light bulb will go on, and that relevancy will pop up again in their future.
Wonderful. Well, you guys are truly amazing. I'm so grateful to all of you for your willingness to share. That's part of the deal, ladies. When you do this well, we have to tap into you so that everybody can hear and you be a resource to them. I wanted to share with you, because it reminds me of your team, one of my favorite quotes that is actually by an African-American ragtime composer. His name was Scott Hayden. But it reminds me of you guys. And he said, teachers have three loves: the love of learning, the love of learners, and the love of bringing the two loves together. So I want to thank you for doing that every day, and continue to do your great work. It's masterful. It's something that we can all learn from. So thank you so much. And I'm going to turn it back over to Joe to wrap us up.
Thanks, Kara, and thanks for facilitating this wonderful conversation with these amazing leaders from Horace Mann Elementary in Glendale Unified School District. So at the beginning, I talked about this notion that some of our students seem to come to us with a cord that doesn't quite reach the outlet. And what is so clear to me after listening to this conversation is that you, teachers and administrators at Horace Mann Elementary, you see yourselves as the extension cord. You see yourselves as the entity that has the power to make it such that your students will connect, that they will see the magic, that they will get this. It's your enthusiasm, it's your energy, it's your passion, your creativity, your planning, your love for your students that makes such a powerful difference. So thank you so much for sharing with us today. Thank you so much for sharing with our audience. I hope that thousands and thousands of teachers across this country listen to this webinar and hear about what you're doing, see and feel your passion, and understand that this is what it's all about. So thank you, Rosa, Anna, Monica, Patil. Thank you for what you are doing for your very, very, very fortunate students at Horace Mann. But thank you as well for what you are doing for education throughout this country by modeling what is truly possible. And I want to also thank everyone who takes the time to listen to this session. Thank you for your commitment to your students. And I hope that this session and all the other sessions will be useful to you as you seek to ensure great learning results for all the students that you have the privilege to serve. Have a great day.